Hello, math students. I know there was still a little bit of confusion about perimeter and area of similar figures. So I'm going to try to do a couple of different things to see if this can help solidify what the problems might be. So we have two rectangles here, and we know they're similar rectangles. The one on the left is always the old, and the one on the right is always new. So when we're dealing with area and perimeter, the first thing that we always need to find is the scale factor. And we know that the scale factor K, I'm going to write it over here, K is new over old. That's in your composition book. We know that it's always new over old. So what is the new measurement? Well, I look at the new rectangle, and the new measurement is 4. So in this case, K equals 4 over the old measurement, which is 3. Now, some of you want to put that in your calculator and make it a decimal. Don't do that. Leave it as a fraction. And in this case, an improper fraction. That will make life easier on us for later. Okay? So now the deal is, if I know the perimeter of one figure, then I can use the scale factor to find the perimeter of the similar figure. Now, some of you are kind of freaked out by the fact that there's only one measure here. Well, that's right. There's only one measure. I don't need to know any other measures in order to find out the perimeter and the area of my new figure. I use the scale factor for that. So if I know the perimeter of this smaller figure is 16, then to find this new perimeter, I'm going to put new P for perimeter. You'll remember from our class that we take the old perimeter and multiply it by K. Because they're similar figures, I can use K instead of trying to figure out how long each side is. So if the new perimeter equals the old perimeter times K, well, let's figure out what the old perimeter is. The old perimeter is 16. And K is 4 over 3. So I would use my calculator to plug that in. And if I needed to round, I could round. But on most of the problems that you're doing on your homework, there's no rounding involved. Now let's talk about area. How do I find the new area? I'm just going to put capital A instead of spelling it out. Well, you remember, we have the old area. We know that the area of the smaller or the original rectangle is 15. So to find the new area, I take the old area and multiply it by K squared. So the old area is 15, and I know that K is still 4 over 3. My scale factor has not changed. So I multiply it by 4 over 3, but I have to put that in parentheses and square it before I plug it into my calculator. Now I hope that kind of helps solidify a little bit of what's on the front of the homework page. Well, let's continue this just a little bit, and let's talk about some of the problems on the back. I think the example that I give will kind of help go through all 6 of the problems that are on the back of the homework. Let's say that my scale factor, I'm going to already go ahead and tell you that K equals 3/4. I know that K equals 3/4. They tell me that. So now, let's say I need to draw a picture of K equaling 3/4. So let's use, how about a triangle? Okay, let's use a triangle that has a scale factor of 3/4. Well, I know from scale factor that K is new over old. So that must mean that 3 is part of the new one and 4 is part of the old one. So what does that tell me? That tells me, I said we're going to do triangles, so I'm going to have 2 triangles, but the new one's got to be smaller than the old one. Okay, so I'm going to make a new triangle over here, and I'm going to do the old triangle over here, because old is always on the left and new is always on the right. So that means I don't have to worry about what side is what. I just know that one of those sides is going to be 3 on the smaller, and that one of those sides, the corresponding side on the other triangle is going to be 4, because that gives me new over old being 3/4. Now I can take all of that information, and if they give me a perimeter, if they give me anything else, I can figure stuff out. So now, what would be the ratio for the perimeters? Well, perimeter ratio and scale factor are exactly the same thing. So the perimeter ratio would be 3/4, because just like from the beginning part of this video, anytime we're trying to find perimeter, we multiply the old perimeter times the scale factor, which is 3/4. But the area ratio is just a little bit different, just like we've been doing in class. When I'm trying to find the ratio of the areas, what do I have to do to that 3/4? Exactly, I have to square it to find the area ratio. So this would be 3/4 squared. When we're talking about area, we always square. When we're talking about perimeter, we leave K the same.